Hello and welcome to Thought Provoking Tech. I'm Zach, and in today's episode of Compute, I'm going to be talking about setting up your own private cloud utilizing a Synology NAS. A NAS, which is NAS, stands for Network Attached Storage. A network attached storage device is essentially nowadays a mini server that sits in a centralized location in your home that lets everybody within your home access data. You can even set up users, so certain users only have access to certain folders, and so on and so forth, to essentially set up a centralized location for all of your files, so everybody doesn't have to deal with a bunch of external hard drives laying around everywhere. This is especially interesting if you have like a side business, or you make YouTube videos, or you're an amateur photographer, even creating, taking pictures as an amateur photographer. Taking those raw pictures will store up a ton of storage space on computers. So having a centralized location you can dump all that is becoming more and more relevant in today's age. And there's two primary reasons for this, in my opinion. One is still a lot of people still don't have access to very high bandwidth internet from their ISPs. Take myself for example. I only have a 10 megabit connection down and a half to 1 megabit connection up. And as ISPs always measure, that's megabit, which is a small b, not a big B. So to upload a single megabyte of data for my home connection, it'll take anywhere from 8 to 16 seconds on average. And especially if you've ever created a YouTube video or shot any type of video, even for fun, you can see that video files add up quite quickly. And a minute of video could be a pretty large file. And in today's day and age, even with that, especially with recording 1080p video or even 4K video or higher, that becomes very cumbersome to upload and not completely nuke your internet at your house. So at the same time, there's a lot of concerns over privacy. With everybody becoming more and more online, so a lot of people are becoming more focused on kind of privacy as they realize all the data that they're putting online. So with a private cloud, you have a lot more fine control over what you put online, how you store it online, and you can even still back up online by encrypting your data before you send it to the public cloud, and having your private cloud be your main point of access in your day-to-day life. So there's a lot of benefits for setting up your private cloud, and those are some two primary benefits in my opinion. And everybody else, I'm sure, has their own kind of reasons for being interested in setting up your own private cloud. So today's video will essentially revolve around me setting up the DS1515 Plus, which is a 5-bay Synology NAS. You can buy these with hard drives pre-installed, or you can buy your own. I personally recommend WD Western Digital Red drives for the NAS. They're very good. And Synology NAS devices in general are very, very reliable. I manage several at work, as well as having a couple at home that I run. And for the most part, I usually don't even log into them, but maybe the work ones I usually log into once a week, just to do checkup on them, make sure that everything's just going smooth and everything. But sometimes I don't even log into them every week. And the home ones I might log into, once a month, if that, just to kind of show you some reliability. And when I log into them, I'm usually not doing all that much, just poking around and seeing if there's any new apps in the Synology store, and so on and so forth, just to kind of experiment with that stuff. Now, today I'll be setting up a NAS just for my projects, because they're kind of crowding my family NAS that I had kind of our media and everything on. So it's going to be its own little NAS that's going to have all of the project data from Thought Provoking Tech and everything else that I'm working on. So let's go ahead and, without further delay, get started with this setup process. All right, so I'm now ready to start installing. This is actually my second Synology NAS at my house. I also have another one at my parents' house that it's just a little bitty one that came with the pre-installed hard drive that I essentially backup dated to have a local, well, semi-local offsite storage. This one already had previously a data on it, but I'm wiping it to just have my project data on it. So essentially what I'm doing now is erasing all the hard drive all the data that is already on those hard drives. So essentially what's going on now is it's installing the disk station manager and formatting the system partition within within those hard drives so that we can go ahead and get started with the full installation process. All right, so as you can see here, I have the very first option, which is to install the latest DSM versions automatically. If I didn't already say that, DSM is the Disk Station Manager, which is the OS that the Synology will run. It's essentially a version of Linux that's been modified quite heavily by Synology. So I highly recommend choosing this option. The next option will only update choose to install automatically the very important updates. And the last option will only download those updates and they'll have to be installed manually. The first option has worked flawlessly both for the business and the personal Synology NASs that I run. I do just recommend just sticking with that. I'm going to go ahead and do this on do updates on Saturdays, and let's see. Actually, we can just do this daily at 3 a.m. I'm usually asleep by then. So essentially, this is going to automatically install all the updates for me, which is really going to make this Synology device completely hands off for the most part. And I highly recommend just going ahead with that option. Go ahead and choose to run smart tests on the disk that will essentially monitor the health of those disks and give you full warning when the disk might start to fail. If you do get like a bad segment, just a single one really isn't too bad. But if you can use this to monitor to see if you start seeing some degradation with the hard drives, and once you start noticing and you may choose to replace the hard drive right away, and that's up to you completely. But I've had one that gave me a report, and it's been had one bad segment for a whole year, and no data loss has incurred, and there's no real issue with that. But it is just kind of a way to keep track of it, and you can notice that if it starts having more and more bad segments, then it might definitely be a warning sign to go ahead and get that drive replaced. So essentially, you can enable bad sector warning for drives, and this is essentially your number of bad sectors. I don't know why I set that 1 to essentially 1, but by default it's 50. If you leave it there, you're probably good. Once you get 50 bad sectors, it probably is time to go ahead and change. I've never had a drive that just didn't die on me that had less than 50 or bad sectors. So keeping that in mind, once you get to the 50 mark, it's probably getting ready to time. It's a good inclination to go ahead and just get a new drive on the way and replace it whenever it comes in. So now you can create a quick ID. Since I've already had a Synology NAS, I'm just going to log in with an existing account, and then I will rejoin you. I do highly recommend, though, going ahead and creating a Synology account with a quick connect ID, because this will let you access your Synology while on the road, while away from home, quite easily in a very well-designed web UI. Essentially what I'm using now to set it up, you'll be able to access this while on the road with a quick connect ID. While there are alternative methods such as setting up a VPN to your home network, this is a very solid option that lets you connect with your Synology NAS, and it lets you use a lot of the different apps that Synology has, such as a very solid competitor to Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive with your private cloud, essentially syncing just like you do with OneDrive or Dropbox data between your computer and the cloud. Essentially, you'll sync it to your private cloud. So it's a very powerful feature that I highly recommend go ahead and create an account so that you can take advantage of it. All right, so the Synology has finished downloading updates. It went pretty quick to about the 43% mark, and then it slowed down considerably. But it is now finished downloading everything that it was downloading, and has now restarted. And then it's now at the next screen, which would be creating your server name, your primary username, and your primary password. My desktop computer is called Iron Man, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with that theme. have a little bit of fun and call this the Stark Industries. And I'm going to go ahead and create the username and the password. I'm going to go ahead and do that off screen, and then we'll rejoin right after that. All right, so I've logged into my Synology account and created a new Quick Connect ID, which will be unique to just this NAS under my Synology account. You can have multiple Quick Connect IDs, as I do, to let you easily log into multiple different NAS Synology devices while away from your home network. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. And now you're seeing the DSM for the very first time. So I'm just going to click to a couple quick tips and go ahead and get started. All right, so we are now on the main screen. As you can see here, this little first pane right here is your widgets area. You can see that I've already kind of expanded that up. You can dock that in any of the four corners by clicking this button. I keep mine docked in the bottom right and just expand it to the top so that I can have room for different widgets. There's tons of different widgets. You can even have stuff like who's connected right now to your NAS, different change logs, and scheduled tasks, which will be tons of different things ranging from backups to scheduled updates and so on and so forth. So you can even schedule certain applications that we'll get to in a little bit to turn on and off. So one thing you'll notice is that there's numbers now in Package Center and the control panel. Let's go ahead and jump to the control panel first. And this is essentially telling me that there's an update available. It's still checking, but apparently it's already checked in the background and found that there's an update because it's telling me there's an update. So we're just waiting for it to actually find the update that is available. I do know that DSM 6.1 is the newest version overall, but there's probably like a little bitty update within that primary version to download. Let's go ahead and jump to while we're waiting on that. Okay, there we go. So you can see there's an update. It took a little while to find, probably because of my internet. So let's go ahead and update. And as you can see, it's updating in the background. And we will be kicked and be able to join back in onto the NAS here in a little bit after it finishes updating everything. So let's go ahead and stop here and we'll be right back. All right, so I'm back in the web client and let's go ahead and load up the Package Center. The Package Center will essentially be your hub, kind of like the Google Play Store or the various Play Stores on the mobile devices or the Windows Store on the Windows PCs and so on and so forth. It's essentially your hub to all the different programs that are compatible on the Synology NAS. Actually, in fact, as you can see, there's no volume, so I have to do that first. So let's go ahead and minimize that as we just kind of go over the Package Center real quick. So you can see there's a lot of different actual applications. One of my favorite is the Cloud Station Server, which is essentially Synology's version of Dropbox or OneDrive. It's a very powerful, it lets you sync files to your PCs and access files on your mobile devices and download just individual files. You can't sync an entire directory on your phone, but you can access those files while on the mobile. They have a cool chat app. It's kind of interesting. Tons of different apps though. As you can see somewhere, there's all the apps that they work on, and here's the third-party apps. So you can see they have access to Docker, which means you can run a lot of different Docker apps. So what you can actually do with your Synology is pretty open-ended. There's tons of different apps, and I'll kind of be running through some of my favorites. If you're an iTunes user, you can set up your own iTunes server with the Synology NAS. Lots of cool stuff. There's a lot of mail stuff. I've never really messed with any of that. If you're a business user, there are some some ERP softwares, essentially with OpenERP. I think I saw something with like Sugar CRM, so different CRM tools, vTiger CRM. I've never used any of those, so I can't speak of if they're good at all. But there are some tools, especially for a smaller business just getting started out in tech. Some options for you to kind of get your feet wet and go ahead and start testing out some technologies for your business. All right, so let's go ahead and create our first volume. You have two different options, and they're pretty much split paths from when you wanted to create a volume. The quick method necessarily isn't any quicker, but it just kind of runs through using SHR, which is Synology's hybrid RAID volumes. You can also go the cousin route, which I'm going to go ahead and go on to as far as I can without turning back, and just kind of showcase the options there. So you can create a single volume on your RAID, or you can actually create multiple volumes. Keep in mind that if you do want redundancy, you will have to keep disks back for that redundancy. So if you have, say, 5 disks, for example, and you want to have 1 disk of failure, you will have to keep, you can make a maximum of 2 volumes on a 5-disk array. So just keep that in mind. You can see here I actually have a couple WD drives and then a couple other ones. I don't remember what they are, Seagate maybe. In my business Synology NAS, I always buy the WD Reds. I recommend that if you're setting this up for yourself and you're definitely not wanting to deal with any disk failure. I'm okay with if a disk does happen to fail. It'd be good practice for work to actually have one kind of fail. So keeping that in mind, I do recommend just getting maybe not even Western Digital Reds, but a drive that is meant for NAS use. So it's telling me that all the data will be removed. And here are your different RAID options. You have RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, and RAID 10. And then you have a couple of options without data protection, essentially WOD, which is just a bunch of disk. And then RAID 0, which is kind of optimizing your disk for speed as opposed for redundancy with data production. So I'm going to go backpedal back to quick and go to the option I want to go to. Choose the same disk and say, yes, I want it to be erased. And now you're given 2 different options. So you have SHR-1 and SHR-2. The only difference between the two is how many tolerant or disk failures you will be tolerant with. So essentially you can have 1 disk failure with SHR-1 and 2 disks of failure for SHR-2. I have 4 disks, so if I chose SHR-2, I would only actually have the storage from 2 of the 4 disks because 2 of them will be used for fault tolerance and disk failure tolerance. But I could also lose 2 full drives and not lose any data at all. I'm going to go ahead and go with SHR-1. I do have a hard drive I can throw in quickly for if I did lose one. And I'm not too worried about that. I will have all this data backed up on an external source. So probably my other NAS here or a NAS I have off-site. So I have some options there, or I might choose, especially if the data gets too large, to really back up to one of my other NASs and starts to take up too much space. I might encrypt it and back it up to the cloud. There's lots of different options there, but I'm just going to go with SHR-1 for now. Then you have the options for your different file systems. BT RFS is the newer file system. I recommend just going with that. You can dig further into the different differences between the different file systems. So you can kind of read this if you want to. But I just recommend that, depending on your use case, so do read this, as it might impact what you're planning on doing with your Synology, and if that's going to be possible, or if it might be helped by BT RFS, or going with EXT-4. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. And I'm just going to leave the description as that. I don't really care. I never look at this stuff because it never really needs to be looked at. And go ahead and continue on with this system. So it's going to be creating those while we're waiting. All right, so as you can see here, this is a very slow process to create your your RAID array. It has to verify all the hard drives. It's currently doing a parity consistency check. It's at 2.6%. It's been going for quite a while now. So this will take quite a while. So it's probably a good stopping point for this video. So as you can see, this is a good introduction to the Synology NAS device and getting you kind of set up and start rolling. From here, you'll be able to create shared folders, which will essentially be root folders that you can give certain users of your NAS different access to. I'll be having videos on kind of following up with those basic steps and the basic steps to getting your Synology NAS up off the ground. And after that, I'll be kind of digging into different apps to give you a little bit more insight into all the offerings of what you can actually do with a Synology NAS. So thanks for watching this kind of introduction to Synology video. There'll be a lot to come with Synology. I hope you kind of like what I'm doing with my kind of compute show, kind of the different series with Liquid Sky content and with Synology NAS, giving both a cloud and a private cloud option for you. I have a lot of different ideas to go from here. Other offerings outside of Liquid Sky for cloud offerings, kind of testing those both for gaming and for alternative uses, both business and personal. So there's a lot of cool technology out right now to really push both the cloud forward in general, whether that is a public or a private entity. So without further delay, let's go ahead and end this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. If you liked it, please comment below. There'll be a lot to come, kind of expanded upon what you can do with a Synology. With the testing I've done, it's the best NAS that I've had experience with. It's very solid, very reliable, and they were working on adding a ton of features to make it a very feature-rich server more than just a storage device that's attached to your network. So also consider checking out my Twitter profile and following me there to stay up to date with everything thought-provoking tech. And if you did like this video, consider subscribing and sharing this with a friend. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, Zach out.